Thank you. Good evening, guys. We are honored to have Ron Sandison on our show tonight. Again, this is another episode of Advocacy, and we are so happy you guys have joined us. Buckle in, sit tight, and get to know Ron, the founder of Spectrum. Of course, I have Crystal here, my other co-host Lisa. Thank you guys for joining us. What we are going to do now is turn it over to Ron. Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself in Spectrum.
So I founded Spectrum Inclusion, and the purpose of Spectrum Inclusion is to empower young adults with autism for employment, relationships, and learn the skills they need to thrive and not just survive. And I just wrote my fourth nationally published book. Right now it's in Barnes& and Noble. It's on Amazon, Adultery on the Spectrum, an Insider's Guide to Navigating Life with Autism. And again, this book is written to teach people the skills to thrive and not just survive on the spectrum. And one of the things I do is I know that autistic people are visual learners. So I have fun activities in each chapter to teach how to develop those skills. And I interviewed 20 of the most successful people in the world. Disney actress, I interviewed from Atypical, Tay Anderson, pro athletes, NASCAR driver Minnie Williams, and share their journey with autism and their insight. And I also have questions and answers so you can use as a group activity. And then one of the things Spectrum Inclusion does is we have the Honey Badger verse of the day every day on YouTube and Instagram. If you go to Ron Sandison, you can watch my Honey Badger verse of the day. I have a very unique gift. I have 15,000 scriptures memorized word perfect, including 22 books in the New Testament. And I have the whole book of Mark memorized from my Greek to English version and can quote the whole book. And one of the other things I'm doing is I speak at 70 events a year all throughout the United States. I just got back from speaking in Kansas, April 4th at the largest United Methodist Church in the United States, Resurrection Church. I guest lectured at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa for 2 classes. And then I was in New York and got to go to Times Square. And in the middle of Times Square, I did a Honey Badger verse of the day, and it was Zechariah 4:10. Who dares despise the day of small beginnings? And a lot of times people with autism, we feel like we have small beginnings because our development seems to be delayed, but it's not denied. And as we learn those skills, we can learn to do amazing things. And then the final thing I do is I work full time in the medical field at Havenwick Hospital. I've been there 17 years, never missed a day of work, and I work 40 hours a week there. And I'm part-time professor at Destiny School of Ministry, and I've been there for now going on 21 years. And then my first book, A Parent's Guide to Autism, Practical Advice, Biblical Wisdom, was a top-selling Christian parenting book all time on autism. So that keeps me busy. I'm like Visa, I'm everywhere you go. I've spoken in 12 countries already, everywhere from Israel to Madagascar I've been, and I'm always traveling, always on the road, always getting new opportunities. And in April 29th at 9:30 a.m., I'll be on Fox Morning Show in Detroit.
When do you sleep, Ron?
I sleep, I get about 8 hours of sleep a night if I'm lucky, usually about 6.
Oh my goodness. Crystal, I know you took your mute off. I'll give you an opportunity to jump in.
Wow, I mean, just hearing that, Ron, I was on Spectrum's website and just hearing you share what you do and how effective you are representing many individuals and also helping parents and caregivers, giving us insight and better understanding and a different view of how we can. I'm very much interested in adulting and finding out how I can support. I have children that are on the spectrum, and I would want to definitely want to support them so that they do thrive. And I think that this is awesome. I mean, I'm going to have to subscribe to your YouTube channels as well. Like, you're amazing. We were already getting requests like, oh my gosh, I met Ron before. And I was trying to tell you earlier, I'm your neighbor. I'm not too far. I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So this is a delight for me to get to really sit and hear more about you and what you do. So I'm so glad you're here with us tonight.
And I was just in Ann Arbor speaking at Zion Lutheran Church, and I also spoke at Ann Arbor Presbyterian Church just about a month ago.
Oh man, I missed it. But I'm gonna have to keep my ear to the ground and follow you and just keep up with you because this is amazing what you're doing.
Thanks so much.
Now, Ron, tell us a little bit about you. I know about Spectrum, but tell us about you. Of course, you have walked the walk. So you're coming at it not from an opinionated standpoint, but you're coming at it from the fact that you lived this life. Tell us a little bit about you growing up and all that you endured and what prompted you to do this.
So my development actually began normal. I said my first word mommy at 9 months, and then at 18 months, I went through a time of regression from being able to say mommy to only mum, mum. And 25% of children with autism are going through the autism regression. And my mom immediately knew there was something drastically different between my brother Chuck and Steve and me. She took me to a pediatrician. Pediatrician gave great advice for a woman who's online dating, but horrible advice for someone who's neurodivergent. She said, men are like fine wine, you got to give them time. Women are like flowers, they blossom quickly. And my mom immediately got me in intense speech therapy. I was in intense speech therapy all the way from age 2 to 16. When I was 7 years old, my speech was so delayed that my brother Chuck would introduce me to people saying, you need to meet my brother Ron, I think he's from Norway. And at age 7, my mom took me to Henry Ford Hospital. And in 1982, at age 7, I was diagnosed with autism. When I was diagnosed, it was 1 in every 10,000. CDC just said it's 1 in every 31 children that is going to be diagnosed with autism. And in 1982, my mom got me this guy here, Prairie Pup. And she used Prairie Pup to teach me social skills. She was an artist. She was an art teacher. She quit her job as an art teacher and became a full-time Ron teacher. And using art and Prairie Pup, she helped me develop social skills. And Prairie Pup in 2002 met Muhammad Ali. Prairie Pup in 2012 met Screech from Saved by the Bell. And this past year, he met Dr. Ben Carson and he met Jose Canseco, although I don't think he's on steroids. Looking at him as scrawny as he is, even though he hung out with Jose Canseco for the day. And part of what made me successful and makes every young adult on the autism who thrives is this. Number one, there was an advocate for me and someone who believed in me, someone who knew I had talents and gifts. But it's not enough just to believe your kid has talents and gifts. Second one is the most important to thrive on the spectrum. You have someone who market you. My mom used my art and marketed my art with Prairie Pup. I won a major art contest, Detroit art poster contest for Detroit Edison, and I got to meet Isaiah Thomas when I was in 3rd grade. My mom knew I had a great ability for memorizing verses, so she marketed me with the person who had the most verses in the world memorized, TV evangelist Dr. Jack Van Impe. When he saw how many verses I had memorized in 1999, I got to mentor right under him. And all along, my mom used marketing, believing in me, and then the final one is this, exposure. All different types of environments, so I'd have to learn to adapt and use my gifts in those environments and be able to adapt to sensory issues. I had a lot of sensory issues growing up. There's a song, it's all about the bass. When I hear boom, boom, I'm going to give a can of whip. And I had a lot of difficulty with bass in college living on the campus. My wife to this day, if she's going to put on nail polish, even if it's 30 below in Michigan, she can't put it on the house so I can smell it weeks later. So I've had to learn to adapt and use my strengths to adapt and accommodate to my environment and overcome my limitations. And as I do that, I gain connections, and I gain connections. I have a support team, mentor team. Then I have a marketing team. And then I have the most important, which we on the spectrum lack the most, the ability to delight. Within a few minutes of meeting someone, I can hook them in, cause them to look at my life. I can give them the book, the content, and then I can give them the took, something they can apply. And that's what enables me to speak to 30,000 people a year in person, all the way already in New York and Kansas, Tulsa, Indiana, and many, many more places. I'll be speaking in Florida in a couple of weeks.
Ron, I mean, I'm not even lying. You have said a mouthful because just you, I guess talking to you, my daughter is nonverbal. Talking to you is giving me answers to her because some of the things I know with her, as she's gotten older, a lot of her hangups or a lot of her things is socialization and sensory. But it's hard because I've heard some people to say, you kind of restrict them to a certain extent, but you don't restrict them. But you have to know that balance. So for me, the type of person I am, I do push her into different environments. There are times that I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna worry about that. But as we're getting old, as she's getting older and we're being more exposed, it's leading me to expose her to more. So I like the way that you said that you've kind of challenged yourself and you pushed yourself, and it's helped you. And your mom even did it. So it's helped you to develop into the man that you are today. That is remarkable.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped me learn culture and social interaction is going on mission trips for the summer. I went to Cameroon, Africa, lived with the Pygmies for 2 months while at Oral Roberts University. And by living in that environment, I learned how to adapt. I went one summer for a month in Bulgaria. And by going these different places, Madagascar, and every trip I went on, I said, I want to be the keynote speaker. So whenever we went to church or went to different places, I'd be the person doing the main speaking for the group and being sharing the sermons and doing the different activities. And I think exposure early on, trying new foods. In the Cameroon jungles, I tried monkey. We even had baboon. We even ate toucan Sam. And by trying different foods, I've been able to adapt to different environments. And I find myself being able to adapt very easily now where I didn't at one time. There's a word called diptych, and it means being able to adapt in any culture, in any environment very quickly as you learn the environment around you and learn to use your strengths in that environment. And that's one of the things I've learned to do and been able to adapt.
Oh my goodness. I'm just amazed. Tell us about your schooling, Ron.
So I went to Oral Roberts University, but my first year at college, actually, I went to Rochester College, which is now Rochester Christian University. They changed the name a few years, and I ran track and cross country. Then I got an academic scholarship to go to Oral Roberts University. Undergrad, I got a degree in theology and practical ministry, and one in psychology. I got a minor in, and then my master's is a master of divinity from Oral Roberts University. Right now, I'm licensed in the Assemblies of God. And at the end of this year, I can apply to get ordained as an Assemblies of God minister.
I just I'm just in awe. I just love the way that you have challenged yourself. I want to know, how was it? Do you remember when you were uncomfortable in a setting and how you felt? Like, how did you initiate that overcoming? Was it something that your mother kind of pushed you to do, or as you got older, you felt uncomfortable in a setting and you were like, listen, I can't do this. I want to be comfortable?
So it began this way. When I was 5 years old, my mom took me to a Maxwell Smart movie. And Maxwell Smart is the voice of Inspector Gadget. And at the beginning of the movie, there's this glove, and it got bigger and bigger and exploded. And when it exploded, I was running around the theater. You could be doing "Go Gadget, go!" And my mom had to run like heck to catch me. And it took them an hour to get me out of that movie theater. But what they did is the next week, they took me to Aristocats, and the meltdown was only 45 minutes. And by sending me to different environments, I learned to adapt. And then when I was in fourth grade, they had a Cub Scout event with a red-nosed clown and red makeup, complete with a lamb puppet. And the clown thought it'd be funny to take the hat off my head, put on another kid's head in front of 200 Cub Scouts, families, and people. And he took the hat off my head, put it on another kid's head, and with one swoop, I had the lamb puppet and proceeded to beat the snot out of that clown. And the next day, they kicked me out of Cub Scouts. And when they kicked me out of Cub Scouts, my parents got me in Indian guides. They got me in karate. They got me in new environments. So they never allowed anything to hold me back or any person to hold me back. And as an adult, in 2004, I found myself at dead end. I had 2 ministry jobs, lost both ministry jobs the same week when the environment in Michigan collapsed due to the automobile industry. And then that time I started really seeking God, and he gave me 7 ways to thrive on the spectrum. Number 1 was learn eye contact. At that time I had 0 eye contact. Number 2, be able to pronounce TH and L words. I had very little ability to say mother and brother and lion and different words. And number 3, have a mentor, someone who'd build me up. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man or woman sharpens another. Number 5, filter what I'd say. I was like Trump on Twitter. Whatever came in my mind, I'd spew it out. Number 6, pray and seek God. And I started praying and seeking God. And then number 7, never give up. By perseverance, the snail made on the ark, Charles Spurgeon said. So even if you're slow as a snail or a tortoise, if you're going in the right direction, you're going to achieve it. And I'll never forget, right before God gave me that, I was at the bottom end. I said, did you really call me to Oral Roberts University? I got done speaking about 5 people at a small church event. And as I'm driving down the street, a car pulls up in front of me and passes me, and the license plate was ORU. And ever since then, I've never questioned it. I've just sought God and allowed him to speak to me by his Holy Spirit and lead me and direct me to develop those gifts and talents.
Wow, what a beautiful testimony, Ron. I enjoy hearing that. And also, I like when as I'm raising my children, those are exactly some of the things that I've been doing is making sure, I think I was doing it just unknowingly, just bringing them to different environments, taking them to dinner, taking them to the movies, and just working with them. And in the atmosphere we were in. And so, some things that my husband and I would do is sit on each side so that they feel comforted. We didn't want to start certain behaviors, so we didn't want to have like electronics at the table, because we wanted them to see if they can be able to stay in that type of environment. And we were just doing that, not knowing at the time what we were doing. So it's encouraging to hear you say that, being exposed to different environments and understanding areas that could help you grow even with your speech and your eye contact. One of the things I noticed when I was on your website, spectruminclusion.com, I was under the part where it talked about your story, and it was very touching to hear your testimony as an athlete in I believe you were in high school, and you were talking about just how God opened a door for you. And that had really touched me, of you being able to continue to participate. I think you were saying something like about your age at the time. Could you share that with our audience today?
Yeah, so my junior year of high school, I was on a relay team for the 3,200-meter relay, and we were one of the fastest in the state of Michigan. And on the way back from finishing 12th in the state of Michigan, the anchor on our team said next year we'll be the fastest relay team in the state of Michigan, but we won't have Ron on our relay team. And right then, God spoke to my heart and said, I'll provide a way. You'll run on the track team, and you're going to use this as your testimony. My mom called all the lawyers. They said it'd be over $40,000 for Americans with Disabilities Act case. We couldn't afford it. And then I got back from a 5-mile run, and this was right after my dad said, there's only one thing you can do, give it into God's hands. Psalms 25:3, no one who's hoped in you will ever be put to shame. So we gave it into God's hand. And when I got back there on the front page of Detroit Free Press was a young man, Craig Stanley, born May 1975, same year as me. He was a track and cross country runner, and he was told he couldn't compete, and he had a learning disability, but not autism. And my parents got with his parents. We advocated. Then that Sunday, I was getting water baptized. And the couple days before I got water baptized, Detroit Free Press had a second story having a picture of me and Craig Stanley saying that 2 young men's civil rights are being violated. And that Sunday when I came out of the water, the pastor had an unusual look on his face, and he said, I saw something in the heavenlies. Joel 2:25. I repay the years of the locusts eaten, the great locust, the young locust, the other locust, when my great army is son among you. There's a learning disability that ate away from your life, and God's going to repay it. And I got home, and there was the answer machine, blinking red. When I pressed the button, up came the time of the call, 9 a.m., right when I came out of the water, and it began this way. Hi, my name's Rick Landel. I'm a young attorney. I just got my PhD from Boston College. I got my law degree from the University of Michigan. I want to take your case pro bono. Took our case, we won, and then years later, Gary Marison, a lawyer out of New York, would take my case and win Anthony Storono's case for a place kicker for a football high school team, and enable him to be able to compete with my case. And now all throughout the United States, my case is a present send case. If someone has a disability and they want to compete past the age limit in a non-contact sport, they're able to compete. So it doesn't cover baseball or football or basketball, which are considered, or wrestling, which are considered contact sports.
So you all set the precedent on being discriminated against. Ron, I'm
Went to
serious.
Cincinnati courts, federal.
This is awesome. Now, how did it tell us when you felt when they tried to reject you? Because we want this to be as real as possible, because there's some people that's dealing with rejection just
And I
because
got to
they're
share
different.
something on that.
Mm-hmm.
So every meet that I competed in, the Michigan High School Athletics Association passed out a paper, and it said that a young adult with a disability is winning awards and medals that rightfully belong to kids without, or who are the right age. And they even put in the letter the college I was going to go to, Oral Roberts University, and they said minority discriminating against the majority. That was the title of the article. Now today, if anyone ever did that, they'd be locked up, shackled. Their money would be taken away if they were getting money from the government. I'll never forget, Judge Fikens said this to the Michigan High School Athletic Association. They said, well, we're a private organization. And he said this, he goes, I'm so glad you're a private organization. That means you don't receive any money from the government. So all we got to do is take away any money that's going to government, and then you won't have to let them compete. And the thing is, they were getting all their money from the government. And they said, well, we can't do that. And he said, then you're not a private organization. You're open to the public. This guy's rights are being violated. And then they said this. They said, this guy's going to ruin track and field competing past the age limit. And Judge Fikens, with his gray hair, he was almost 90 at the time, he said this. He goes, I know one thing. We've had track and field since Athens in the days of Greek, so they're not going to ruin track and field for everyone. But I can tell you one thing. You violate their civil rights, you're going to ruin their senior year, and that could impact their life and could have an impact even on who they become later on in life. And I'll never forget him being an advocate for people with disabilities. And when he died, the Detroit News let me write an article about him and share about my experience with him being my judge.
That is awesome. And tell me, Ron, from a personal standpoint, how did it feel to feel rejected by your peers?
It felt like this, like Sally the Seal. In 1989, Exxon Valdez hired this drunken sailor named Joseph Hazelwood to take 54 million gallons of crude oil across Prince William Sound. He hit a reef, 11 million gallons of crude oil covered the coastline, and then over the next 6 months, Exxon Valdez spent $2 billion cleaning up the coastline. And after they cleaned it up, they realized they forgot one key ingredient, the wildlife that was victimized. So instead of spending another $2 billion on the wildlife, they picked one lucky seal, named her Sally the Seal. They cleaned her up. They spent $10,000. They got every camera on Sally the Seal. They used her as a mascot. And they said, Sally the Seal, see her slip back in the sea. Big day came. Every camera is on Sally the Seal. She goes slipping in the sea, and out of nowhere came a killer whale, and Sally the Seal became Sally the Meal. And it felt like Sally the Meal. I got eaten up, chewed up by Boyd, spit out, and all my life I've had to advocate and be strong for all the Sallys and Meals out there who get beaten up by boys. And the killer whale is kind of like boys. Killer whale, it can sense that seal, and it goes after the weakest seal because it's the easiest meal.
I
I
like
like
how
the way
you
you
illustrated
explained it.
that.
I
Yes,
do too.
that was
I do too.
beautiful. And we appreciate you, Ron, especially as a
Mhm.
parent. I
Mhm.
appreciate seeing someone like you just out here, giving your all, being yourself authentically, and, advocating, not just for yourself, but knowing it's for so many. Just like you were just saying, your case going to court and how it has helped so many throughout the years. I mean, it's so important. And I know that the autism community, parents, caregivers, individuals, we appreciate you very much.
No, thanks so much.
Your mom, this lady is amazing. I think I'm just sitting here marveling at your mom because in some ways she set the precedent because a lot of people weren't being diagnosed with autism at that point. So in a sense, she didn't have like a guide. Most of us don't have guides, but I think there are more people that are being diagnosed that you can talk to someone. But in your mom's case, your mom kind of set the precedent. Tell us the when you look back and see how your mom advocated for you, tell us how you feel when it comes to your mom.
So here's one of the best stories. She was inspired by Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man or woman skilled in their labor? They have served before kings and not obscure men. And she realized that I was a visual learner. This wouldn't be made known to the public until the 1990s when Temple Grandin said 80% of people are visual learners on the spectrum. And one teacher says, well, teach Ron 50% visually, 50% phonetically. And then my mom said, then you only get 50% education because, and that's not passing because he can't learn anything phonetically. And She also, when she saw how the education system was, you had a two-teacher rule, one at the front of the room, one at the back. And she said, you're not educating kids, you're babysitting. And if he's in this work environment, the best he's going to be is bagging groceries. The best he's going to be is holding the door open as a bellboy or washing dishes. But he has amazing talents and gifts, and I'm going to develop those gifts, and he'll serve before kings, not obscure men. So I have a great respect and love for my mom. She also now is babysits my daughter every day. Will me and my wife work, and we drop her off at my mom's house. She takes her to school. We got a house exactly 2 miles from my parents' house, and that's another story of a testimony of God. In November 2 years ago, we almost bought a house, and if we would have bought the house, my daughter wouldn't have been able to go to the same school as I went to, and she would have been heartbroken. And then at the last minute, it turned out the salesperson we had at the time was a con man. He tried to sell us a house that had a faulty foundation. We got out in time, and then a year later, almost to the date, we end up buying a house 2 miles from my parents' house, and now I have my dream office. When I look out the window, I got a beautiful view, and it's everything we've been wanting in a house, and it's close to my parents' house, and my daughter gets to go to school that I went to, and it's just amazing.
One testimony behind the other. Ron, this is amazing. I mean, really, truly amazing. Um, I just honestly, I'm just amazed. And I will tell everyone we met Ron at the conference when we went to Michigan. He was I mean, it was like we were just in awe when we met him because he initially came up. He initiated the conversation and just began to tell us about himself. And I mean, we were just so amazed. I know we met a lot of people there, but Ron really stood out to us. And one thing, I don't know if you remember this, Ron, but one thing that you talked about was how you fought for inclusion in the church. You felt like a lot of people were being excluded or being shunned in the church. And one of the things that you did go around and talk about with the churches is how to include these the autistic individuals in and making them feel like they are a part of the congregation. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I find that a lot of times families have children with autism, they feel excluded. And I like this quote: inclusion is enabling people to get in the door, but belonging is making you have a voice at the table. And I think one of the things that the church hasn't really done that is very important is creating a sense of belonging where people with disabilities and people with autism, they're actually in leadership positions and they're actually decision making people. I'll contact a lot of churches. I speak at 25 churches a year, and a lot of churches will tell me this: we don't have someone with autism. I say if 5% of the population has autism, you don't have anyone with autism, that means that somehow you don't have accessibility for them to get in the door and feel welcome and be a part of the ministry team, or they'd be there at your church. And I think the main thing a church can do to bring people in with autism is, number one, love, acceptance, education, and then finally a buddy system where the person, if they're not there, they say, "Where's Billy?" It's not the same when Billy isn't in our group or isn't at youth group or doesn't attend church. So they actually are missed when they're not there. That means you really belong.
That's awesome. I just wanted to applaud you for everything you've done for this community. The one thing that stood out for me is the word advocacy. And I was just wondering if you could just take an opportunity to empower the parents that are in the audience to explain to them why it's so important for them to advocate for their children.
So my
Because
mom, so my mom says this: advocate, advocate, advocate for your child, then they'll be an advocate. And I think there's three C's of a cat to advocate. Number one, cool. You have confidence when you advocate for need. Number two, you can remain calm because you know that you have a support team who's going to be fighting for you. And number three, you're able to be collective. You're able to take your ideas and share them with other people, and then they can advocate with you. In Michigan, if we have a few snowflakes, it's inconvenient. If we have 3 feet of snowflakes, we stop traffic, and the more connections we have, the more we can stop injustice and change the way things are done.
absolutely. And my area of of expertise is special education. And as I often like to remind our audience, there are nearly 8 million children in this country that receive special education services. And it is so important for parents to advocate. Obviously, your mother did a phenomenal job advocating for you. We see her work, we see her labor. And I just, for me, it's so important to empower other parents to be the voice for their children, because we don't have a lot of time. We have 18 years to get them ready for their next journey in life, and to have a decent quality of life. And so we have to put in the work on the front end so we can see exactly what we're seeing in you today. So thank you.
Well, thanks.
Ron, I know you've overcome a lot, but can you tell us some things today that you still struggle with, that you're trying to overcome, or is there anything?
There's a lot. So one of mine, biggest one, is change in routine. We just changed from using Shift Town for our scheduling at work to Workforce, and it caused me a lot of anxiety. On Easter, my brother Steve planned a brunch, and I had work I had to work on earlier. And when I have a time restraint that I'm not thinking about, it caused my brain to get very anxious and very uptight. So I still have a lot of anxiety, and that's the main thing that I struggle with today is anxiety. And every once in a while, there'll be a honey badger meltdown moment. The last one I had was about a year ago. I had a situation where bank was trying to charge me $60 for a security box that I didn't have. I had 13 years ago, and they said that I'd have to call this number where it was the Philippines. I wouldn't give out my information. And then I almost had a meltdown in there saying, you know what? I'm going to take all my money out of your bank and not deal with you again. And then what I did is I sent an email to the head of that bank chain, and within a half hour, I had the guy's full attention. And I sent one, said, I'm autistic. I got a lot of media ability, and what charging someone for something 13 years ago. I said, first of all, the only person who's going to have a security box is someone who has money. And I said, by charging them that money, any person who you charge like that, they're going to take your money out of that bank. So you're going to, the very people you want coming to your bank, if you're going to nickel and dime them for $60, they're going to take your money out. And I said, not only will I take my money out of there, but then once I take it out, I'm going to let everyone know. I speak to about 30,000 people. I may even have a picture of you, make you into a character and make you into a song and dance if I have to. But those are the kind of things that really bug me, is when people take advantage of other people.
Well, Ron, I'm like that. I have thousands of letters that I have written. I'm the same way. So I don't know if that is attributed to autism, because I will have a meltdown in a minute if I feel like someone is taking advantage of me and they're not listening. Because at that point, I'm with you, Ron. I'm going to the top of the ladder. I'm going to find who I can write a letter to. I ain't gonna sit and argue with you. What I'm gonna do is put that pen to paper. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that your mom has empowered you so that it's like the bird flying the coop. Now I know you use a lot of, stories and whatever, but I feel like this. I feel like your mom has basically nursed you and put you in a place that at any given time, when it was time for you to fly the coop, that she felt as though she had taught you enough that you could take care of yourself. And now not only are you taking care of yourself, you have a family. I
Yep.
mean,
And I have a house and
oh my God.
career.
Oh my gosh, we need Kennedy on this call. We need him to see when he said that autistic people will not, will not. That does not happen. You need to get out into the community and you need to get to know that community, because all he continued to say is they will not. They will not. They cannot. They won't. And again, that's where you don't understand that, like you said from the beginning, if you have a great advocate behind you, you have a support system, that's where there's no end to what you can do. That's just crazy. I just can't even understand how you can even make a statement like that. But we ain't even gonna go on that end, because I think that has made everybody furious this week, me included. But I will also say that I don't put much stock into someone that I don't even have the highest respect for to say something about my daughter, to say what she will and will not do. Because I will say this, the spectrum is so wide. And I'm gonna say, even if that child, if my daughter never talks, if she never verbalizes, because she talks all the time, but if she never says something verbally that we all can understand, that still does not denounce everything else she has accomplished over the years, because she has accomplished things. Doctors told me she wouldn't do this. And I was like, yeah, she will. She taught me, because there were some things that when they said she couldn't do it or wouldn't do it, I left out of their office crying, believing them. So I will say that she taught me, and she taught me how to advocate for her. So as a parent, just listening to Ron, just hearing his mom, I would love to meet your mom, because I think your mom can give I mean, she could teach a class to parents that are just, their kids are just being diagnosed. Let me give you some encouragement, because I don't know about Lisa and Crystal, and I'm sure I can speak for them, but I think most of us, if nothing else, we need the encouragement. We need to talk to other parents to see, no, don't listen to that. Let me tell you what my child did. Let me tell you how my child overcame that. So I'm just talking to all of these parents that are just getting these diagnoses, the parents that feel like you're in a no-win situation. You know what? Don't look at someone else and say what your child won't accomplish, but you also need to talk to them, just to sit and have a story to say, well, you know what? If that child can do it, and that's always been my mindset, if that child can do it, if that adult can do it, then why can't Morgan do it? Who
Yeah,
says
it's
she can't
true.
do it?
I like this quote from my friend Dr. Karen Clark, who has a son with autism. Our purpose not to make an autistic person a non-autistic person, but to make an autistic person who struggles struggle less in the areas that they're struggling in. And I think that's key. That's the key. You don't cure autism, you refine it, and you help people in the areas where they need extra accommodations.
I love it. It's called reasonable accommodations. We
Yeah.
have that on our jobs. People put requesting all the time for reasonable accommodations, but I think sometimes, and again, this is something that I had to learn when my daughter was born, is that you may not get the child that you particularly wanted, or you may feel like, well, if they're not this perfect neurotypical individual, you feel like in some ways you've been cheated. But I feel like, again, and I'm not going to say I did not feel like that when my daughter was born, but 20 years later, I feel like I got a jewel. I got someone who is so unique. There is never going to be another Morgan Pop in this world. I mean, and for me, from a spiritual standpoint, I'm honored that God gave her to me, because the way that we treat her, the way that we love her, the way that we advocate for her, I don't think anyone else could have done it. So for me, I feel honored that he selected me to be her mom, you know. So again, it's not to say that you don't go through your beginning moments. Parents that's being diagnosed, it's okay. It is. Years later, you will begin to appreciate them for their uniqueness, and you would be honored to be their parents. I don't know, Crystal, Lisa, I mean, would you all agree with that?
I mean, I would. It's not that I wouldn't agree with that, but I mean, I think that it has definitely stretched me as a parent, and it has enlarged my heart, and it has allowed me to tap into an area of compassion and empathy that I didn't know I had, and so I'm very appreciative for the gifts that God has given me. And when you were talking about Ron's mom, and it made me think of, I know I saw Ron, you shared the book when we started about adulting, but you wrote another book about a parent's guide to autism. And I was wondering, was your mom one of the people, like, where did you get that support and inspiration from to write a book, to be a parent's guide for, to help those?
So one of the chapters in there, she actually helped me write about my journey with autism. And then I also had an amazing literary agent, Les Dobie. The guy at 85 years old decided, I'm going to help young writers have their dream come true of being a writer. He was one of the most influential Christian literary agents, and he took me on as an unknown writer and helped me get a nationally published book. And then while writing, I interviewed 50 of the most influential people who work in the autism field, and then 50 people on the autism spectrum, like Clay Marzo, a pro surfer, Mike Branny, who ran under a 4-minute mile in high school. I interviewed Alexis Weinman, Miss Montana, people like Dr. Temple Grandin, many, many others, Stephen Mark Shores, and a lot of the household names. And I learned, when in writing the book too, I saw how much insight my mom had doing the things their moms did in a time when there weren't many resources on autism.
I have to read that book. I still feel like reading that book would give me some knowledge or help, even with my daughter. I mean, I just feel like your mom she was eons ahead. She was eons ahead. And like you say, we have more resources and help now. But, you know, back then, I mean, most people that were autistic hadn't even been diagnosed, for just your mom just kind of pursuing, getting you diagnosed and not stopping at what the doctor said as far as, oh, they just developed slowly, was amazing right there. Because I know, to me, Jeremy, my son, my oldest son, he was delayed in speaking. And when he spoke, you couldn't really understand him, and we knew something was wrong. Come to find out, it was water in his ears. But people were saying some of the same thing. He had fluid in his ears, and once he got his ears drained, it was a difference of night and day. But as a parent, you know what you know about your child. And I love the fact that, even talking to the doctors, that it did not deter her from saying, no, this something is not right. And she continued to pursue that. I love that. I love it. Wow, this is just amazing to me. Now, I'm gonna ask you, what about your siblings growing up with your brothers? I mean, I'm sure in most households, nobody treats anybody differently, or as Crystal has said, everybody in here has a disability. How did your brothers kind of interact with you, or how did they treat you in the house? Did they treat you like fine china, or did they rough you up like everybody else's siblings?
They roughed me up like every other sibling. And then now in my office, if you could see it, I have on the wall, my brother Chuck gave me all bunch of the remake Star Wars figures in packets. I have them all on my wall. He knows I love Return of the Jedi, and I have a wall just covered in the figures from Return of the Jedi, all in package on the wall in my office.
Wow. So that was also something that helped you to develop tough skin when you went out into the community, is the fact that you didn't get pampered and
Yeah,
yeah, at home. That makes a difference as well.
yeah, it makes a big difference.
Now, when we first got on, you had a little pet there. Can you tell us about your emotional fur baby?
Yeah, so my dog is Rudy on duty. He's a Jack Russell mixed with Pomeranian, and he's the first emotional support pet who needs more emotional support than his autistic owner. And he's on YouTube. If you go to Ron Sandison, you can watch videos of him chasing after ducks. You can see him climb a tree to get a squirrel, and he loves any little wildlife. He terrorizes in the neighborhood. And I tell him we're going to the river, and there's a little river near our home that we go to, and there's all kinds of wildlife. There's an area where it's coyote zone, and he wants to go there and hunt down even the coyotes, but he wouldn't go unless I was with him, because then he knows that coyotes wouldn't go after him when I'm there. But he's a little animal who's persistent like a honey badger and never gives up. Right now, my wife just came home with my daughter Michaela, so he's down there soaking up all the love, trying to get some scraps from the dinner table.
You are hilarious, Ron. I could talk to you all day. You seem like you are just so interested in just the fact that you are so knowledgeable. You seem like the scripture says, study to show yourself approved. And
Timothy 2:15.
yes, and see, I couldn't tell you where to find it, but I do know these are some of the scriptures that we were taught as we were growing up. Study to so you show yourself approved, and you have done just that, Ron. I mean, when I say that you have made, it's giving me hope again, and I hope it's giving everybody else hope, because one of the things that I will say that me and my husband has done as my daughter has gotten older, when you mentioned the movies, that was something that to this day she doesn't like the movies. So what we decided to do is we would have to wait, we would miss every movie and have to wait till it come on TV. So what we decided to do is start taking her to the movies. Um, we did take her to, we had her a sensory movie for her birthday. That was a start. But what we started doing is taking her to the movies with us. We have her in a stroller. We strap her in really good. We're sitting next to her. And initially when we come in, we try to put the headphones on. She doesn't want that. She's throwing everything. She's doing everything because she wants to leave. But as time goes on, after 15, 20 minutes, guess what? She's calm. She's
Yeah.
smiling. She's at peace. So what I did tell my husband is these are some of the things we have to do. It's repetitive, repetitive. Brushing her teeth with a vibrator toothbrush. She did not tolerate it. Now she's tolerating it because we try to prepare her for the dentist. When she goes to the dentist, they're going to have a vibrating toothbrush. So now when we put her in there and brush her teeth with the vibrating toothbrush, these are things she's able to tolerate. Yeah, so I do say that repetitive action, taking a shower. The shower, I don't know if anybody has experienced this, but when they're hitting them with the water, they said it's like knives hitting her. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna keep doing it because now she loves taking showers. So I really just put my 2 cents in it to just say, just like you, if something is uncomfortable in most cases, it's something that has to keep being, like re-emphasized with them so that they can get used to it.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's important.
Well, Ron, I will say I have really enjoyed having you on tonight, and I want to encourage our viewing audience to go to your website. We're going to include it also in the comments, spectruminclusion.com. And I also want to just reiterate what you shared, that you are an author and you have written some beautiful books, and it's available on Amazon. And people should really, really, especially parents, caregivers, autistic individuals that are moving along in life, young adulthood into adulthood, to go and support what you're doing. And also keep an ear out. They need to go follow you, Ron, because you might be in a city near them and they're not going to want to miss you.
So I'm not on Facebook anymore. My Facebook got hacked. I had over 10,000 followers. So the place they can best get me is contact me by email, which is Sandison, Sandison 456 at hotmail.com. And then also YouTube. I always respond to comments there. And then also Instagram. Those are the three main medias that I use now.
And I can put that onto the into our comments on Facebook as well as on Instagram. I will put those into um, the comment section so everyone will have it. And I definitely, Ron, will be ordering that book. I want to start
Thanks.
off with your book with that your mom helped to write. I'm really interested in that because I think without autistic individuals, it's always something that we can learn, and I want to learn even more about autism because I still feel like I'm on the outside looking in. And when we have our guests on here, and just I still feel like I'm just continuing to learn, and I feel like I can never know too much. So I really appreciate you sharing your life with us, really just helping us to understand autism just that much more, and helping us also to understand that even though you're diagnosed with autism, that's not your beginning and that's not your end. So I really appreciate that. I do. Those are my closing remarks. I'm going to give Lisa a chance to give some closing remarks. And then what we'll do, Ron, is let you close us out. Lisa.
Ron, I just want to say thank you for being a light in this community. And unfortunately, we have so many people who do not understand autism. And I think that you are on an amazing journey of educating people, one person, one church, one community at a time. And it's so important at a time such as this. So I wish you the best of luck. Continue to be bold and go forward with your positive message about autism. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so Ron, give us some closing remarks. Give us some encouragement. Give the parents and those that are the caregivers and those that are being diagnosed with autism that don't think that they can accomplish anything. Give us some positive closing remarks to these individuals.
So I like 2 Corinthians 4:7. We have these treasures in jars of clay, so this all surpassing power is from God and not from us. And the Greek word for power there is dunamis. It means dynamite. And we are dynamite people, us on the autism spectrum. And any fool can see an apple on a tree, but it takes vision and dedication to see that orchard in the apple seed. And I'll never forget what my grandpa said when I was 30 years old to my mom. He said, life has a way of overlooking certain people like Ron. It was before I got married, before I had a career, before I was thriving, and I was just surviving. And my mom said, life hasn't overlooked Ron, but God's time from the shine just hasn't happened. And an interesting thing happened. Some background on my grandpa. Him and my grandma were famous murder mystery writers. They wrote 3 books. They did over 200 clue-style plays in the 80s, and they were even on Good Morning America. And Regis referred to my grandma as a homicide grandma. And my mom noticed something after my first book, A Parent's Guide to Autism was published. I spoke at Frankenmuth, where Grandma and Grandpa did a play for 50 people. Only I spoke to 400 people. I spoke at Weber's Inn to a few hundred people, 300, 400 people. Grandma and Grandpa did a play at Weber's Inn, and only 100 people showed up. And my mom said, if only Grandpa could see you now, the very places they did their plays, you're sold out. They had a small audience.
Wow. Wow. Up and coming star. Well, Ron, again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. This has been awesome. This is as Krista would say, nuggets. These have been nuggets. You have given us some serious nuggets, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on Advocacy. Again, we put your information into the comment section. I will be buying those books because I just retired, so I have plenty of time to read. So, everybody, I just again want to thank you. I want to thank all of our listeners. And then there are people that's going to be going back looking at this video. I just want them to tap in and understand that you have accomplished so much and so can they. So this was a great message. This was a great podcast. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Again, Ron, this is not the last time we will talk. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks. And if you have a church out your way willing to sponsor me, I'd love to come out and do an autism parenting conference and young adult conference. I speak all over the country.
All right.
It's
All right,
awesome.
Ron.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, you
Thank
have
you
a
so
great
much.
evening. Everybody
Thank
have
you
a good
too.
one.
I got to
We'll
get
see
to
you
my
back on next.
family.
We'll see you back on
Yes.
next Thursday. Everybody have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.